You're listening to Dirty Feet, a podcast from No More Radio.
Vous écoutez le podcast Dirty Feet sur les ondes de No More Radio.
Hosted by,
animé par
Allison Burns,
JD Papillon,
et Stéphanie Morin-Robert.
Stay tuned.
We're gonna move you.
So it's June in Montreal. This beautiful city just comes alive in the summertime. You've got the Fringe Festival that's just about to start. You've got the Festival Transamérique, or FTA, that's well underway. You've got the OFF-TA, which is an offshoot of that festival. And it only makes sense that in this mess of different ways of presenting work and different institutions setting up opportunities for artists to come in and do that we are speaking today to the creators of the F-Off Micro Festival. This is going to be the premiere of it here in Montreal this June. This is actually a project conceived by Thea Patterson, Peter Trosztmer, and Jeremy Gordonier. And they are the core artists in residence at Technolith. He's the building owner and art collector and patron, Harvey Lev. In studio today, we have Thea Patterson, who's been on the show a couple times before, wants to talk about Chorus 2, which is Sasha Kleinblatt's work, where she was the dramaturge for that project. She also came in recently to talk about The Dance That I Cannot Do, which is actually a piece that's going to be presented in this micro festival. That was back in February of this year. We have another return guest with us, Sonya Stefan, back in studio. The last time that we had her in was October 2013 for Salon Double, which was presented at Agora de la Danse. So, for the first time ever, we have Peter Trosztmer in studio, who is another member of the choreographers along with Thea Patterson, and who's worked with many different people over the years, and who's presented work in a lot of different countries, which is very exciting. So thank you for joining us for the very first time.
It's good. It's nice to be here.
Great. And Thea and Sonya, thank you for being here.
It's great. Thanks. Thank you.
And Sonya is, we were going to say, guest artist of this festival. So I would like to start right away with this title F Off and what that means, and what it means to be doing this festival now in the place that you're doing it in Griffintown.
I guess I'll take that because I came up with the name. We have this space basically, and every year that the festival time comes around, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of energy in the city, and also there's a lot of people coming from around the world, and so it's definitely a platform to be able to interact and get to know with some of those people that are visiting from other countries, diffusers, presenters, cultural workers. So that was there's sort of a pressure actually there sometimes at a point to try and make some space for yourself. Lots of people are doing studio showings. There's a lot of stuff going on to kind of get a chance to interact with some of these people. And we have the space, so it seemed to make sense. At the same time that you find that it's kind of crazy to try and make a mark at a time when there's 8 million other things going on. So it's kind of a funny thing, like we're going to do this little festival at a time when there's already 1 million other festivals. So we were kind of just laughing at ourselves. And the F off play on words, seemed to come naturally with already having the festival, just that reference to the festival, the F being festival, but also a little tongue-in-cheek of we want to try and do it our way a little bit and not just replicate existing models of presentation for work. Also because the space is pretty rock and roll. It's not a clean space. It's not, so, and it really affects the work in a way. It really implicates the kind of work that we're able to do there. So that was kind of the genesis of it, I think.
The space, actually, recently we had a couple girls on to talk about their project, the Griffintown project, which was in a different room, but of the same kind of building structure in Griffintown there. And we talked a lot about what that meant to them. And you have a different relationship with that space. And how did you get involved with working with Harvey and working in that environment?
I think these relationships grow slowly, especially if they're going to have any meaning or any purpose, kind of thing. So I've known about Harvey for years, in terms of just been interested in spaces and architecture and places, and Griffintown has been an exciting place for that, and it's changing rapidly. So, we'll see where it goes. But that particular corner has always been fascinating and amazing. Walked through it many times, wondering who the owner was. And then a woman named Sonya Jensen was doing urban occupations. Urbane was her project, and Harvey gave her a bunch of spaces there. I don't know what her initial connection with him was. So Jeremy and I had this project coming on. We wanted to do. We're looking for. It was becoming more concrete that we needed to find a place to do this work, and I talked to Shona because she knew a bunch of people around there. Jeremy also had a connection to the owner because he had presented a painting during one of their Nuits Blanches, an event. Also, we had gone to that event as well, so we'd seen the space inside and etc.
Also, Harvey's late wife commissioned a painting from Jeremy of one of the buildings, so there was already a nice connection there.
So went in, dropped by a number of times, and always missed Harvey or sent him emails, never got a phone call back, et cetera, et cetera. And then finally, when this happened and there was cash to do the project and we had the concept and everything together and we were like ready to go, magic happened. Wrote Harvey an email, he responded, Thea and I went down, and something must have hit him right, because he looked through my website and saw some of the work and read some of the reviews and stuff like that. So he was interested. He hit it off with Thea right away, and then Jeremy came down and we walked through the space. But we started off and we still are inhabiting an outside space, kind of an old garage space, and it's just recently, since the winter, that we went upstairs and we're doing some stuff upstairs as well, because it's too cold in the winter.
And what you're going to be working on for FOF is 5 out of 6 machines, and you presented Myths and Machines at Tangente a while ago. Where in this process did that happen? Did that happen before you started this relationship with Harvey, or did you take that and move it into this outdoor space? Yeah,
Myths and Machines was a piece based on, it sort of had, for me, a lot of, it had historical research based on my family. That was my interest in it. And then we had this machine, this sculpture. So the myths were the sort of stories or history that has been passed down orally. There's no way of verifying all the details of things, and some of the stories are kind of super stories. And the machines were the sculpture thing. So that was that. And 5 out of 6 machines. I know we're stuck on this machine title, but we took the machine, really, and that idea and concept of the machine, and just ran with it in the outdoor space. We were thinking of like a giant Wallace and Gromit world to begin with, and I think we ended up with our own version of that in some way.
And the space being such a strong influence on the physicality of the movement, how was that adjustment going from outdoors to indoors? And did you feel that was restraining, or did it open new possibilities as far as the work?
I think it depends on the work that's going in there. Like, for instance, what Sonya and Thea are doing, they're doing work that is meant to be in a number of different spaces or venues. So they've been, it's not the kind of place where you can just drop in and do something. So Sonya's been working with me in there since January on a new process. And so she's familiar and comfortable and sort of starting to understand how people navigate the space, how she looks at the space, how she wants people to look at the space. And so she's put that into how she's reworking her piece for the space. And Thea as well has been in there as long as I have. And so, it takes a little bit, because it is such a specific venue. It takes a lot of consideration in terms of that. I built my pieces in the spaces for the spaces, so I would have the challenge when I took it somewhere else to have to face that.
And a big part of the space is actually vacuuming. I know it sounds crazy, but the space is very, very dirty and really raw, like we've said. And all of us, I mean, the first moment you walk in, there's these two shop vacs, and everybody, the dancers, everybody, we vacuum. And we generally clean the space. And it's funny because it's kind of like a warm-up process. You get really intimate, like you really know what the floor looks like and the walls. And there's so many different nooks and crannies of the space and the way the electricity works and all those kinds of things. So when you're doing your dance piece, you feel... I mean, I already feel really intimate with actually the materials of the space and how it feels, and so it just makes sense. And because also all of us are really working a lot with objects, and so there is this real deep connection with the body, with materials, and whether it's a space or a machine.
That explains perhaps why the event photo is this sole person in the dark lighting vacuuming the wooden floor. Perhaps, Sonya, can you tell us a bit about the kitchen series, the work that you're going to be presenting?
I actually have always rehearsed in my house. So it's either usually we push the furniture or I rearrange. And that piece that we're going to do there, I actually started it in the living room. And when I arrived in Griffintown, it's funny because people have lived in that space, so there's these like leftover home spaces, like there's a bathroom with a tub but nothing runs, and there is a kitchen with a fridge and everything, but then it kind of falls out into this lost space where there's nothing. So I love the mix of like home things and this lost space. So I definitely was connected with that. And with the dance piece, we're using all home stuff like VCRs, televisions. All the sound comes from that. The dancers manipulate the cords. So that's another thing about the space is that we need extension cords, to run, to be able to light or do whatever. So there's, I don't know. That's it. In the piece, there's a lot of dealing with those kinds of things. And so what I love about that space is that there is touches of memories of people being there from before, but it's constantly changing. And so we are constantly changing within the space. And so that's definitely an aspect that I really love.
This is interesting again about the space, because back when we were talking to you about Salon Double, if I'm not mistaken, it did come to light that, well, you're moving your living room onto a stage, and now it's kind of a little bit different, your presentation space.
Yeah, because I arrived there and it's already there. I didn't have to do anything other than go and play with the stuff. And so when the dancers came, I'm like, this is what we have, this is what exists. And they're like, oh, I didn't know, like, new things arrived. And with my piece especially, I always had this thing in my head that I wanted it to be kind of like a Facebook idea where it's constantly changing, that it never sticks into one spot, and that the information's always new, and then whatever information comes, whether it's from a dancer or from an object, that you have to just deal with it. So you're just in constant change. So you're multitasking all the time. And the space is definitely that type of space. I mean, Peter's piece in the triangle space, in the hobo shack, downstairs, I guess you can talk more about that. But when you're in there, even when you're watching, you feel like you have to adjust because it's a bit scary, but it's exciting. It's like many things as you're watching it happen. So
scary, precarious, scary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's super, super precarious.
Oh, yeah. I feel like because the upstairs and downstairs, because they're kind of particular and specific, sort of in their nature, there has to be a theme of hospitality or caring or sort of some sort of. It's not a normal event that you're going to. So yes, the outside space requires a little extra consideration for everyone, and we talk about that. That's part of the experience and part of the show. So and that's kind of what gives you a different. We're not giving you an antiseptic experience. We're giving you a real sort of live and present, and we encourage you to keep your eyes open and yourself present.
And for the performances, as far as the audience goes, are they free to roam and explore? Are they directed in certain directions? As far as them watching the work, how much structure do you guys have for the audience?
Well, the three different things that we're presenting, we're actually presenting more than three. There's a few other little things that are happening, but the three main show, quote unquote show, they're specific, and they're at specific times, and they're in specific spaces. So there is actually there is a focus that we're asking for from a viewer, like for a fixed period of time. Peter's, the audience moves around, but it's quite guided because of the precarious nature, and the other two are. I don't know what to say about it. You're not really free to move around, but you're not super fixed either. You're kind of having to adjust yourself, or there may be some interactivity. So I would say it's not a space where we can actually let people just roam freely too much, because we have to be taking care of them and respecting also Harvey's wishes of not just having people running around. There would be lots of places to get lost in there, and it's just we have to be a little bit careful.
In reference to the actual performance experiences, I think what's interesting about this is that we're considering, or everything is open and everything is on the table every time. So, like during the performances, you are less fixed than you are, let's say, in a theater. You're not sitting in your seat, unable to move. You can stand up, you can walk around the room, etc. Or in the case of the piece outside, you're immersed in the room. So no matter where you are in the room, you're in the show. So these kinds of things are sort of part of the exciting aspect of the place, is we get to rewrite and write these rules and definitions as we go and negotiate them as we're coming forward. So they're not all fixed in stone. And in terms of, in terms of how the place is developing, the people we encounter when we go there. There's a nightclub. There's fancy cars coming in and out. There's construction vehicles driving by, and so there's lots of negotiating all the time. And I think we're trying to encourage this sensation and experience for people who come and visit to see the space. To negotiate, they're going to have little things to negotiate along the way as well. So it's just trying to make a very live, rich experience.
And as far as the other collaborators or artists presenting work in the same evening, I believe there are video projections, a little bit of everything. Can we maybe just have a little taste of what else we will be seeing?
Well, Jeremy, who's our other collaborator, who's sort of he's a visual artist. He's installed one of his installation pieces, which is a huge mural, which it's beautiful as well. He's created some interactive sound sculptures. So there's one in particular that you can actually play, which ties in also with Peter's, the piece in the Hobo Shack, which has a lot of interactivity with the objects, almost like a playground. Yeah. At the end, we invite the audience to come and play on some of the objects. So those are Jeremy's that's in his realm. There's going to be some video projections, one by Nathan Yaff, and another is a collaboration between Sonya and Audrey Juteau and her dog Sam. And Winnie, we have another guest artist who's come from Calgary. Winnie Ho is her name, and she's going to be kind of a roaming performative presence. And then on the night of our fundraiser, which is the 6th, we're having a big party. That's important to note. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we have Claudia Francello and Leanne Dyer, who are doing a food performance, which involves also us getting to eat the food, which is going to be amazing.
Just another reason to go.
Yes, they're amazing. They're amazing food people. Mm-hmm. Amazing. And also Leanne Dyer has some sculptural objects, and her family is going to be roaming around. The Dyer family is they're quite wonderful. I don't know if anyone saw them at Short and Sweet, the last Short and Sweet. I don't know if anyone who remembers that will know what I'm talking about. They're pretty special. And Gerard Reyes has just been I've just brought him in this week as another kind of person who's going to be kind of there on the 6th as a performance presence. Yeah.
You mentioned fundraiser, and I know that this residency probably helps a lot with when it comes to funding and budgeting and creating work. But there are other costs that are probably not included. So is this the fundraiser that will help you guys take this project onwards, or is it for this project in particular?
It would be super helpful if they ended up with... we have some, there's a roof that needs fixing out back. And this fundraiser won't bring in enough to do it, but it'll help patch up some of the holes and things. It's just to help with some of the ongoing maintenance and sustainability of the place. Extension cords, light bulbs, lamps, it's a little bit of sound stuff. Yeah, it's never ending. I mean, the place itself is, it's great. It's amazing. But we constantly want to make it more and more functional so we can keep these dreams that we're having.
In the project description, along with kind of the care for the space, there's also this focus on the interaction with people in the neighborhood. And you're talking about this community of artists that's participating in this festival, in this fundraiser with you. In what way, is that the neighborhood that you're talking about, or is it broader than that? Is it more specific to the location?
Harvey said this to me once when we were standing in the parking lot in the way of a car that was trying to back out and not moving. So the car had to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because it was one of his renters, the guys who were renting New City Gas. Clearly he doesn't get along with them. And I'm like, Harvey, why are you doing that? And his response was that this place has always been a village. So there's always been people you get along with and people you don't get along with. And I think I find that an interesting concept. It's the idea that, that great things come out of tension sometimes, and great things come out of great, exchanges as well. So we have all of that there. So that's the community I'm talking about. And because Griffintown is exploding, there's, the big influx of having to deal with construction, rewriting the rules of the neighborhood in terms of how people can engage with the whole community. I mean, there used to be, squats and little places all along the canal that have all been tossed out. So there's new, and I mean, there still is a squat just down the street underneath the viaduct that was there all winter. Like they're living there. Anyway, I saw them
they brought out their rug and they were beating it to get the dust out, and they were sweeping out under the viaduct. Like they were doing housekeeping, like serious housekeeping.
They have a garden.
They were spring cleaning, and they have a garden. It was amazing.
Yeah, so that's all the community, and then now the influx of people who hit the underground parking and go up into their new condos, and once in a while you see them outside walking their dog or something like that. But that's all part of it. The sort of this place where people aren't yet sure how they all interact, because it's a mix of old and new.
And speaking of community and residencies, I heard from a little bird that you guys will most likely be going to Parsborough in the Bay of Fundy. And from experience, I was there last summer at the actual post office. So I love the thought of seeing how this community will shift, and interested in seeing if you guys are starting completely new ideas or giving a second life to the project based on the experience you'll have over there, or if it's kind of just a complete blank page and you'll let things happen on their own.
In Parsborough, we'll present sort of an unplugged version of SD Myths and Machines, the piece we did at Use and Say with Tangente. Because we have a tour, so we'll be in Halifax and St. John's, Newfoundland, and we're adding that as a tour date. That was part of the initial arrangement with Harvey, with the use of the outdoor space. He was like, well, if how about you guys do that there, and then you come out to Parsborough and do that show I saw on the internet.
Like, damn, we have to go
so
to Parsborough.
Demanding.
But we are building, we are investigating this new piece in other spaces as well. So we'll do a little bit of research towards that as well while we're there. We're doing it. We're in Peterborough. We're going to Peterborough midsummer to do that as well. And then early, like 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be in in Stephenville, Newfoundland, also there's a ton of old empty hangars and things like that because it was an American Air Force base there at one point. So, yeah, trying to expand this idea of inhabiting industrial or post-industrial, but also looking at industrial spaces. We'd like to sort of mix this, instead of waiting for all the workers to go away, like sort of have them have to walk around the sculpture to get to the button to turn the thing on. Would be very exciting.
Never gonna happen. It's our dream.
Yeah. All three of you have had work presented by a more formal presenter, and a big part of this project sounds like it's about creating your own opportunities to present work and to have a project to work on. So perhaps, I mean, we're all partially aware of what these issues are with having enough exposure, enough opportunity, but perhaps you can tell me a bit about your personal experiences with that.
Well, I don't know. I might start talking a lot.
I know, that's a big question.
That's a big question. Okay, what do I think? I think that all those things do get me down, like those opportunities to present, all that stuff. So, but instead I said, okay, like how could I still keep working on the thing that I love, which is dance, but just find like any opportunity to do it. So what I've done is I make dance films, and I've applied with the dance films in festivals that aren't dance festivals, and I've been lucky, and I've been able to, like, go there and present them or do performances and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I want to be in dance environments with people because those are the people I love. And when Peter had this space and we were working on a new piece for him, it just made sense, to be there, to like. Not clear. To be fully excited about the opportunity to be able to do that, and as well as being excited of being part of something to have other people present their work that is there, like Leanne and Claudia and all those other people. So I think that we all have to do whatever we have to do. Like, we have to present ourselves in already known models, but I think that it's really, really, really fun to explore models that we don't even understand, or are like we just jump in there and just do our thing, and then after the experience is over, find out what was great about it, what was bad, and just constantly be willing to transform and be present in whatever experience it is.
We're kind of at a point of questioning right now. It feels that's always the job and purpose of an artist anyway. And because of economics and possibilities, availabilities, what am I trying to say? That's the wrong word, but it's irrelevant. So new models are sort of really important to search out, and also questioning, like, what is this sort of capitalist art model thing? Spaces, theaters, really expensive to run, unions, having to fulfill expectations of what you're going to do in the theater. All those things sort of, it's wonderful to be able to take a chance to step away from it, and to try to figure out a new way of doing things. So, we're going to have a festival. How are we going to get people to do it? Like, are we going to have an application process? Are we going to have people write another grant so that they can, like, sort of get to know us to do the thing? So we all agree that that's not how we want to operate. And that leaves, it's a whole wide world of trying to, we just want to pose questions for a bit, or challenge a little bit. And that's why it's F off as well. And it's not to say no, or it's not to say F off to the established, but it is at the same time if no one's trying to undermine, then no one's doing their job. Like, the job of the artist is to question, to propose, question, undermine, destabilize, restabilize, I'm not going to say more.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say a little bit about the application process. At one point I realized, it's out of the frustration that I'm just terrible. Like, I cannot explain myself via words. Like, I try and I can't. So there you go. So then I was like thinking about, what about all those other people, like, in the world who express themselves, I don't know, via movement or all the other ways that we know. But it just felt like, I mean, it's normal because again, it's a capitalist society. Like we have to write our artistic statement. We have to do all these things. This is how you connect to getting opportunities, residencies, money, all those things. But it feels after a while that you're just constantly in a box. Like you have to jump through hoops, and it's always the same hoops that you're jumping through to be able to do what you love. So I know that the three of us talk about this a lot, that we definitely like when you just meet somebody and you're like, wow, this person is really interesting. Just the way they are, the way they speak. It's just like, it's really on a personal level. And like Winnie, for example, when you see Winnie, I mean, just meeting Winnie, you know that person has a lot of interesting things to show and say in this world. So she's like a person that I'm really, really excited to see perform on Friday night.
So I feel like when we talk about this, the having to describe our projects with words or having an artist statement and all those hoops you're talking about that you have to jump through over and over again just to present work, or maybe present work if you're accepted. Whether it's applying for festivals or running a festival, there is a lot of administrative tasks to complete and to kind of wear many hats, whether you're a performer, a choreographer, or a grant writer. How do you manage all of those different roles? And
I cry a lot. I mean, I'm being honest. Actually, it's hard.
It's hard. I mean, the administration tends to take over. Yeah. This is the truth, and it's kind of depressing. But we sort of kept it to a minimum on this particular event. It's the same thing of trying to kind of not just replicate the way things have been done. It's pretty fluid.
I think we've tried not to let it take over.
Like we didn't make any press kits.
We didn't make a video for like an advertising video. Or just we did some things for sure. Like I don't know exactly how to say it, but leaning more towards the actual hands-on kind of stuff, and leaving the rest to kind of just emerge, or it's gonna just be what it's gonna be, and we're just gonna try and have fun.
And like you guys were saying, it's more about the connections that you've made with either other performers presenting work, so more about real life conversation and exchange.
Yeah. At the same time, we want people to come, and you have to do sort of some outreach, but we also each of us have our different skills sort of sets, and part of the working in a sort of collaborative organizational capacity is to just also utilize the skills that people have. So Peter's a great networker, so he easily does that. So then Sonya takes on something else. She's great at equipment and setting up video stuff.
And she writes.
And
she's the writer.
I do the writing. Not sure what Jeremy does. Still trying to figure that one out.
And for those who do come, and I'm sure there'll be many, and share this experience and see the work, what are you hoping they take home with them?
I mean, no one can walk into that space, I think, and not be affected in some way. It's that both of the spaces, in a sense, they kind of go in to you somehow. So there's that, and then with the work kind of being sort of immersed into the space is to feel like that kind of joining, so that that it's not just about the space, but also how the work sort of is touching the space and kind of bouncing off of the space. Also, I think I would like them to go home with a feeling of that there was a hospitality. Really is like and an easy hospitality, like not go get a beer from the fridge kind of. It's not.
Like there's
it's effortless or something.
There's a parking lot. I know this sounds really strange, but there's this parking lot that everybody enters and everyone's sitting around. And it has this feeling for me of where I grew up in my small town, where people would come over and we'd hang out in the garage. And everyone's just sitting and talking. And so it feels less alien-like to me, like being in a museum, for example, hanging out, having a beer. It really has this feeling of hometown. So what I'm hoping too is that because the space is so alive, that when people come in, it allows you to have easy conversation, and physically, I feel like it's easy to be there. So I'm hoping that people who will come will feel that easiness, and then that will instill like conversation, dialogue. Pieces will happen. It'll just be more communicating. Yeah, like you said, on an easier.
Like this conversation.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to mention about the project?
Oh, Andrew Tay and David Albert Toth, who I think his DJ name is David Lafontaine, will be playing on Friday night. Wear sensible clothing. Good shoes. Yeah, it's dirty. It's dirty in there. Don't wear high heels.
Don't wear high heels.
You'll get stuck in the cracks.
Yeah, you will. You will get stuck in the cracks. Yeah.
That's it. Bring your lovers so you can find a corner.
Oh, there's lots of good a lot of good smooching corners. Also, just maybe it's important to note that we are asking for a suggested price of $10, but it is pay what you can, including the fundraiser. So our philosophy is basically like no one will be turned away unless we're at capacity, which can happen in the Hobo Shack, but upstairs that will never happen. We will never reach capacity.
We've been speaking today with Thea Patterson, Peter Trosztmer, and Sonya Stefan about the F Off Microfestival, which is taking place the 4th, 5th, 6th of June, 2014, here in Montreal, in Griffintown. What's the address?
The address is 141 Rue Anne. And basically, if you know where the Darling Foundry is, you just go straight west on Ottawa, under the highway, and around the back of New City Gas.
Yeah, it's always a good idea to have your walking plan beforehand, or you're going to get stuck on the wrong side of the highway or something. And there's a more specific schedule of all the different presentations on the Facebook page. On the
Facebook page, and also we have a F Off Microfest WordPress. So if you just Google it, you'll find it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
As we mentioned at the top of the podcast, it's that time of year for the Montreal Fringe Festival. This year there are 9 shows in the dance category and several other multimedia shows that feature movement and dance. Definitely worth checking out. You can go to montrealfringe.ca to see the full programming or pick up a paper program. Check it out. We'll be spending time for the next 2 weeks speaking with artists presenting work as a part of the Fringe here in Montreal.
Dirty Feet is recorded every week at the Montreal Improv Theatre. Check them out at montrealimprov.com.
Dirty Feet est produit et animé par,
produced and hosted by Alison Burns,
JD Papillon,
et Stéphanie Moret-Robert.
You can find out more about our show at nomoreradio.com, follow us on Twitter at Dirty Feet, and find us on Facebook at Dirty Feet Podcast.
Vous pouvez écouter tous nos épisodes sur notre site web ou vous pouvez vous abonner également sur iTunes à notre podcast.
Listen to past episodes on website or subscribe to the podcast on iTunes.
While you're there, be sure to give us a rating or leave a comment to help us spread the word.
Tune in next week for a whole new show.